Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, two beautiful sisters
My dad is very controlling.
say they've been sheltered their whole lives.
Your father picked your cartoons. He didn't tell you about your mom having cancer. You didn't have the talk about boys and sex.
But now,
I don't try to control anything other than I don't like your current boyfriend.
That's crazy. I have a child with him.
You're running her life. If you're so smart, why did she make such a bad choice?
is Dad kicking them to the curb?
You don't have to live in my house
You're leveraging her.
for my sanity at this point.
You followed it up with an eviction notice.
I followed it up with a very polite eviction notice.
Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you.
Well, Alexandra and Victoria are here today, and they say that their father has tried to control them their entire lives. Now, how much parenting is enough? We always wonder about that, but they say he's gone too far, from choosing their friends to monitoring the cartoons they watched when they were young. Well, okay, but he's gone on to forbidding them from following stories in the news. Even 9/11 when it happened. He even put a tracking device on their phones, and as they grew up, he would tell them who they could and could not date. But Steve says he's only trying to protect his daughters from a life of craziness and does not understand why they keep making self-destructive decisions and allowing what he calls what the blank men to take advantage of them. Now, he says he makes them watch my show to learn some life lessons. So I'm sure they resent the hell out of me. But Alexandra and Victoria say he is no Dr. Phil. Well, of course not. I mean, they say he's nothing but a right fighter. Take a look.
My dad is very controlling. My sister, Alexandra, and I have been sheltered our whole lives. Growing up, my father was very strict. My parents chose my friends. I was never able to date. We weren't even allowed to go to a juice bar after school.
My dad is way too overprotective. We couldn't watch normal things like the news. My dad never explained to us personally what 9/11 was. He just didn't want us to know anything bad in the world.
At one point, he put a GPS tracker on my phone. When I was 17 years old, I wasn't even allowed to see the movie Ted, and the only way I could was if they were sitting in the back row behind me.
When I was in 6th grade, my mom had ovarian cancer and my dad didn't tell us about it. I couldn't go on field trips in elementary school because the school buses didn't have seatbelts.
Now that I'm 20, my father still tries to control me. He doesn't even accept the boyfriend that I have now, which is the father of my son. My father's hatred towards my boyfriend consumes his thoughts. He even says that all my boyfriend wants is sex. Why won't you talk to him?
Because he's done so many disrespectful things that I just don't feel like talking to him.
I have a 10-month-old son. My whole pregnancy, all I got from him was anger and pushing me to get an abortion. When I was pregnant, my father even kicked me out of the house. He wrote me an eviction notice.
I definitely think the way he raised us affected me. When I started college, I had never had so much freedom before, so I kind of went crazy and I was like a party girl. I got married when I was 19.
My dad loves Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil would say that my dad's a right fighter.
I think he needs to stop trying to control us.
The worst thing about this is that he doesn't realize what he's doing is wrong and that it is tearing our family apart.
Okay, so he quotes me to you guys all the time.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I'm sure you were thrilled to come here and get some more of this, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think he's doing this? Were you like demon children or something? Like when you were young? Did you scare the bejeebers out of him or what?
No, we never did anything to make him not trust us until he started being so strict.
He was keeping you on a really short lead. He wanted to be
Yeah.
real close by.
Yeah.
So did he have the talk with you about boys?
No.
Like the birds and the bees talk?
No.
He
Never.
he just didn't want us to have
I-
boyfriends.
Anything that had to do with boys, like they didn't want us to be around.
Well, what about news? You said that he wouldn't let you follow news stories, like even 9/11.
Yeah,
What-
we didn't
Yeah.
really watch the news growing up because he didn't want us to know anything bad about the world.
He wanted to keep us innocent.
Were you allowed to go on school field trips?
Not in elementary school because he said that the buses didn't have seatbelts.
All you could do as kids or like in middle school is just maybe go on a walk around the neighborhood.
Well, not even that. I mean,
Oh, you could not walk around.
Yeah,
the
our
neighborhood.
family
No.
would because all of our family lives like across the street from us, and like they would be like, "Oh, your parents let you walk across the street?" Like, wow.
Yeah, and I remember they even like took the lock off a door so that I couldn't lock myself in the bathroom when I was upset.
Your mom came down with ovarian cancer, right? She was filled with ovarian cancer. But he didn't tell y'all.
No. He just told us that our mom was really sick. It wasn't until like after her surgery, and when she came home that we found out.
I actually made a list of the things that you guys told us that kind of gives us a sense of his behavior according to the two of you. He would choose your friends and who you could hang out with. You were not allowed to go to the juice bar with friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put GPS trackers on your phone so he knew where you were at all times.
Yeah.
You were not allowed to watch the news. When you would go to school and people would talk about something that happened on the news, did you feel
Yeah. I was
odd?
like-
Did you like,
It was-
oh, really?
It was really embarrassing because we were just always known as like weird because like what do you live in, a box? Like, are you sheltered? And I'm just like, yeah, pretty much.
You were only allowed to watch black and white movies?
We still don't know any regular movies pretty much because that's all he ever wanted us to watch and showed us.
So you've not seen My Cousin Vinny or any of the classics?
No.
Okay, all right. So he picked your cartoons. He didn't tell you about your mom having cancer. You didn't have the talk about boys and sex. You didn't go on field trips that we talked about. And Victoria, he made you repeat the 8th grade and then be homeschooled after that because he wasn't ready for you to enter high school.
Yeah. He first asked me, hey, I talked to your teachers. I think that they all said that they would recommend you repeating the 8th grade. And at that point, I was confused because I was like, I passed all my classes, I graduated, and he asked me, and I said, no way. I was like, I don't want to do that. And then he pretty much just chose for me even after he asked me.
He asked you what you thought and then made the decision for you.
Yeah.
Okay, this has led to conflict, obviously. You guys, and that's very predictable. And I want to look at some excerpts, some text messages between Steve and Victoria. And this was just April of this year. Victoria, I feel like you just push me and Alexander away because you worry and you text all of this out of nowhere. I wish you would talk to us in person, but every time we do talk, you don't really say much unless we tell you what you want to hear. Maybe we just haven't gotten that love and connection with our father lately. I think maybe not having that with our dad leads to daddy issues like me getting pregnant and Alexandra's issues too. He says, well, that's just dumb. You both need therapy and that's it. I don't talk because nobody listens. What you just wrote is so ridiculous. Call that Dr. Phil app and get some therapy. I think people in general can benefit from a good counselor, and Dr. Phil's Doctor on Demand should have better than average counselors available. This is... He's not on my payroll, I promise. Trust me. Alexandra and Victoria say their father is to blame for the bad decisions they've made in their lives. Are they right, or is he just being a vigilant father? I mean, it is a dangerous world out there. I don't care how flat you make a pancake, it's got two sides. We'll be right back.
I have two beautiful daughters that can get any guy they want, but every guy that they've ever brought into my house is what I call a WT. And the last one that got my youngest daughter pregnant is the biggest WT of them all.
And later,
I basically don't try to control anything right now other than I don't like your current boyfriend, and if you want to live in my house.
But that's crazy. I have a
can't.
child with him.
I've never felt the love and protection from my father, and all I've known is control. He made me repeat the 8th grade when I passed all my classes. I think that my dad was afraid for me to go to high school. He wanted to shelter me away from that.
We couldn't do like simple things like go to school dance. My mom showed up to my 8th grade dance. My dad told her to show up and embarrass me.
well, Alexandra and Victoria say their father, Steve, is controlling, manipulative, and unaccepting of their life choices. But Steve says, look, he's only trying to protect his beautiful daughters, who he believes lack self-worth and are unable to make adult decisions, even though they are in their 20s. Take a look.
My two beautiful daughters have both made a lot of self-destructive decisions. My entire lifetime, I have made my family my top priority. I always try to protect my children from anything that might interfere with them losing the innocence of childhood. That included not watching the 6 o'clock news and not exposing them to things that I thought were inappropriate. I have two beautiful daughters that can get any guy they want, but every guy that they've ever brought into my house is what I call a WT. And the last one that got my youngest daughter pregnant is the biggest WT of them all. The most stress I have ever experienced is with Victoria and her WT boyfriend. It seems like somehow she's gradually being brainwashed. I've offered to Victoria that she can stay here as long as she can follow one condition, that I don't want her to get pregnant by having sex with a disrespectful person who could get her pregnant for a second time. Victoria is constantly breaking my one condition. I got so fed up that I wrote her an eviction notice. I believe Victoria cannot make adult decisions because her brain is not fully developed. My older daughter, Alexandra, is a beautiful lady, but she often makes bad life choices. She has an established pattern of allowing just about any guy to take advantage of her. We sent Alexandra to college, and then we got the news that she had been married. My biggest fear with Alexandra is she could go down paths that could end up causing her extreme harm and even death. If things don't change, I fear that this family is in jeopardy of completely falling apart.
Okay. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Do you think you're controlling?
In some ways, I am controlling.
Do you think you're too controlling for their own good?
Well, a lot of this is kind of like too late to correct what happened. At times, now that I look back retrospectively, I obviously controlled them too much.
Tell me what you think the job of parent is. If you were just going to say that the job of a parent is, how would you finish that sentence?
Well, I didn't know it at the time directly. I can answer it very directly now. It's to prepare them for the next stage of life.
Well, that's my answer.
I know.
But I want to know what your answer was.
Well, that
how
is
did you approach this?
Well, what happened was I was trying to prolong the innocence of childhood, but there was a time when, you know, that needed to change and prepare them for the nonsense and violence of the real world. I just never had the heart to it's like, how do you just go up to your kid one day and say, hey, by the way, I've been sheltering you for the first 10 or 11 years of your life, and here's what it's really like.
So we just get thrown out into the wolves?
You know, Robin and I have two boys, and, you know, I'm in a different situation in that I've spent my whole life in psychology and human functioning and human behavior, and I know what people are capable of. And so when our boys went out for the night, I'd say it right in front of Robin, and she would just go, "Oh, God, I know." But I would tell them, there are people that leave their houses every night with the intention of hurting someone else. And boys, you need to know that.
And if I had it to do over again, I would have done that.
Well, maybe it's time to reparent and go at this in a different way, because it is scary to put them out there, and it's scary it was scary for you, right?
Oh, very scary. I trusted that we had done what we needed to do to prepare them.
And that's not what happens here. Well, what have you taught them about men? You complained about the ones they bring home. What have you taught them about men?
Probably nothing. Yeah.
Well, you're the most powerful male role model in their life. And the message you've given them is, you're not capable and competent. I have to do these things for you. I have to pick what you watch. I have to pick where you go. I have to screen your friends. You're not able to do that on your own. So I have to control this for it and manipulate the world for you.
Well, what you just said is the other side of the pancake. All that control stuff, there's another side to it, yeah.
Look, we're going to add Steve's wife to this conversation and find out why she is afraid that his obsession with his daughters is going to actually kill him. We'll be right back.
Stephen is consumed by our girls' well-being. When they were younger, the girls would sneak out. I don't think sneaking out was terrible. I just think it's part of being a teenager. He says to me, "You're an idiot if you think that."
And later,
this stresses me out to the point where I feel like I'm going to be dead before the end of the year.
You say you're doing it to protect them.
No, I'm not going to say no to you ever. My wife and I are definitely not on the same page when it comes to parenting. I try to get my wife on my path in parenting, which I feel is mostly the right path. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but my wife has admitted that she is not strong in critical thinking. One of my wife's primary objectives is to be friends with her children, and that makes me the enemy. My wife believes that you can just sprinkle a little bit of Jesus on somebody and everything will turn out perfectly fine, but I happen to think it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Oh, I agree with both of you. A little bit of Jesus goes a long way, but it is more complicated than that. Steve says he wants his wife, Lupe, to be on the same page as him when it comes to parenting their daughters, but he says she does not stick to the plan and constantly complicates things because she wants to be friends with her daughters, and he is left as the enemy. Now, Lupe admits that she and Steve do not see eye to eye when it comes to their daughters, which leads to constant conflict.
My husband and his controlling actions are tearing our family apart. Stephen is consumed by our girls' well-being. Steve and I could not even go out to dinner because we always bring up the girls, and that creates a big argument. When they were younger, the girls would sneak out. I don't think sneaking out was terrible. I just think it's part of being a teenager. He says to me, "You're an idiot if you think that." I don't want to be in the middle, as always, and be the punching bag. I was always the middleman and the punching bag. It was my responsibility to make sure the girls knew the rules, even though he was the one who actually made the rules. Growing up, the girls would not be able to go to their friend's house. Steve would send me to drive in my car and check to see where Victoria was. Stephen wanted to keep my ovarian cancer from the girls until my hair started falling off. Our marriage right now is consumed by Victoria. It's argument after argument. One of the things that we don't agree on is the relationship between Victoria and the baby's father. Victoria's not allowed to go to the boyfriend's house and spend the night. It's not like she's gonna go see random men. My big concern is that if I ever tell her something that I don't agree with, I feel like she will just say, "Forget you, you're out of my life." Stephen blames me. He says, "The girls turn out like this because of me," but I don't think it's my fault. It's his fault.
Okay, Lippy, I'm glad you're here. Do you think that Steve has bad intentions?
No, I think he's overprotective.
What do you two think about what I'm saying to your father about you being ill prepared by him overprotecting and sheltering you, that he's cheated you out of certain things, certain competencies that you would otherwise have picked up along the way?
I feel like I am trying to catch up with myself. Everything was always so overbearing, and I feel like we were just kind of thrown out, and we don't know anything.
But you're kind of in a catch-22, right? Because you say, okay, I did overprotect them, so they do have gaps in what they know. So now they are vulnerable, so now I really need to protect them.
Right, but I have no control, and I just release that control, except when Victoria tries to maintain this relationship. There's a list of 15 or 20 things, maybe even 50 or 100 that she's told me about her current boyfriend, and there's no way that you could listen to all the things that she's told me for almost a year and a half, 2 years, and then suddenly, oh, I love him. And I already know that there's some things that have happened where he's basically threatened to not give her financial support if she doesn't live and sleep with him.
That's not true.
I've heard arguments on the speakerphone where she tries to break up with him a few times, and he just basically whines and throws a hissy fit, and next thing I know, they're back together again. So, but I basically don't try to control anything right now other than from the perspective of, I don't like your current boyfriend, and if you want to live in my house, then I just...
But that's crazy. I have a child with him.
Right, but you don't have to live in my house.
And
I've told you I want you to live in my house.
Yeah, and so I said I won't live in your house anymore.
Okay, if
so
that's
then
how
you're
you feel.
pushing me away to the place you don't want me to be.
Well,
see what you're doing?
Well, it's your choice.
You're leveraging her.
For my sanity at this point.
You followed it up with an eviction notice.
I followed it up with a very polite eviction notice.
Closed captioning provided. Well, let's look at one text exchange between you two, and then I have some questions for Alexandra here.
Okay.
Now, Victoria, do you guys mind if I just stay out here tonight? Steve, I give you a nice place and ask you to do the right thing, and you seem to be on the right track. Then the serpent comes along, and you listen to the sinful one. It's just like Adam and Eve in the garden, disobeying, and then cower shamefully and naked in front of the Lord. You're wanting to stay with the father of your child, right?
Yeah.
Victoria, this is my relationship, though. You can't tell me what to do anymore. You need to respect me as an adult now. Steve, you're right. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you you're not to live in my house. So you're leveraging her.
Honestly, for my sanity at this point, I just, there's so much
You followed it up with an eviction notice.
I followed it up with a very polite eviction notice to try to get her to just compromise a little bit. You know?
Dear Victoria, I've given you several chances to follow the one condition for living in our house. This is your final warning. You've failed again to follow, so that means you don't really care to live in this house. Dad. Could have said, love, Dad.
Or,
bye, Dad. Don't let the door hit you in the ass, Dad. I mean, it could have been anything.
Yeah. Well, why do I have to if this stresses me out to the point where I feel like I'm going to be dead before the end of the year, why should I allow her to live in my house if she won't just follow one simple condition?
Oh, well, you followed that up. You said, Dear Victoria, I've compromised and given everything I have. Disrespectful blank, and you continue, and you do not want to be flexible on one basic condition that I have asked and now requested. So if you aren't going to respect the condition for healing and respect the possibility that possibly occur, then your time staying at our home has come to an end.
That's right. I feel that way. I really do. I feel like if you can't just follow that one condition, because it's not just because I want to do it, it's because...
so she picked a guy you don't like.
Yeah, but it stresses me out to the point that there's a bunch of reasons why I don't like him, and they're good reasons.
Okay,
and,
but
yeah.
You've made all of her choices. You've guided her every step of the way. You've put everything together. If you're so smart, why did she make such a bad choice?
Well, I don't think I'm all that smart. Why do you or do you feel that I should allow her to live in my house indefinitely and just do whatever she wants to do?
Because you own it. You created the situation.
Okay, so what do I do about the stress level that it creates for me?
Well, the stress level that you are experiencing is the reason that you're trying to control these two girls. You say you're doing it to protect them. I don't believe that. I believe you're doing it to make yourself feel better.
No, well, I'm not going to say no to you ever, but that deserves it. So I'm doing it because I admit I really can't stand this guy, and I just know she doesn't really want to be with this guy, and I think that even though she says that, it's because of an undeveloped brain and because she just doesn't know any better. Yep. That's what I believe.
But how would you know about my relationship or anything? You don't talk to me.
Well, because the undeveloped brain part is because you're 20.
Okay. All right, Dr. Steve. Well, you know, Alexander's been putting up with this for 5 years longer than Victoria. We're going to take a break here. We're going to find out why Victoria says it's her father's fault that Alexandra's identity is so wrapped up in money and material things. We'll get a look at that and hear Alexandra's perspective when we come back.
These are all excellent points.
How long have you been watching the show?
I started too late. I know that things would have been different if I would have watched your show earlier.
Closed captioning provided by...
I am concerned with Alexandra about the lack of quality in the men she dates. One of my concerns is that she has been in a dating relationship more than once with an older person, at least 15 to 20 years or more. I do believe she could end up in a very, very bad situation. And considering everything that she's done over the past several years, that might include murder, rape, or any type of sexual abuse.
My God, this is so Freudian, I just want to throw up. Steve says his daughter Alexandra is beautiful inside and out and could get any man she wants, but he says she has no self-worth and keeps attracting men who take advantage of her. Alexandra admits that she allows men to manipulate her into getting what they want because her father has always done that to her and her sister Victoria their entire lives. You learned about men from the man in your life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How they treat women, value women, interact with women, relate to women, position women. That's where else can you learn that, right?
Yeah.
On stage today, I mean, you've said she's an idiot if she doesn't agree with certain things. You've said their brains aren't through growing. They're not sophisticated. They don't have self-worth. You raised them, and then you criticized the product of your parenting. And I think that both of you have done very well in spite of a lot of bad messages you've gotten. Do you think your self-worth is lacking?
Yeah. Growing up, I've always been told what to do and having decisions made for me. So when it comes to friends and boyfriends, I feel like they do the same thing. They take advantage of my, I guess, naiveness.
So the one relationship you've had throughout your life with a man was your father, which was an older man who was telling you what to do and manipulating your life.
Yeah.
Let me guess, you've gone out and replicated that relationship in your life with older men, and they tell you what to do and control what you do and direct you and all of that.
These are all excellent points, and I just somehow never realized that correlation. I don't know how, but thanks for telling me a little late, but thanks.
How long have you been watching the show?
I started too late. I know that things would have been different if I would have watched your show earlier.
Well, here's something you may have missed. We talk about self-image, self-esteem, self-worth. Those have become such buzzwords. I think about it in terms of self-attribution. And self-attribution is the cause of one's success or failure is perceived as a result of internal or external forces in order to maintain their self-image. You watch yourself master your environment. I attribute to myself the ability to handle this kind of situation. Robin and I have been married 41 years. I remember she worked as an industrial engineer the first year we were married, and she came home and said there was some guy at work that was really hitting on her. I got up on my hind legs and said, "Would you like me to take care of that?" And she said, "No, I don't need a damn bit of help." She knew that somebody gets in her space, they're going to draw back a stub. And she didn't need anybody to help her, and she had attributed that to herself. She had seen herself do that before. She knew she handles those situations. And if your father doesn't even let you watch the news, doesn't let you go to a movie, doesn't let someone try to crowd you or take advantage of you and let you observe yourself, put up stop sign and say, "Back off, bucko," then you never observe yourself do that. You never attribute to yourself mastery of your environment. Okay, we'll be right back.
I have a lot of stress from both daughters and their dating choices. If Victoria plans on marrying this boyfriend, you can rest assured that I will not be part of the wedding.
My parents never sat down and talked to us about boys, and it was always, don't have sex, don't do this, don't do anything involved with boys. This just made us rebel because any freedom that we got, we ran with it.
But I just want to let you know that a lot of the stuff that's being said right now, it's a little bit out of context, like going to movies and several other things. Actually,
do you really want to spend your time fighting over a detail?
No, no, I don't.
Because we can.
No, I don't want to do that. I'm just saying that a lot of this stuff that sounds so ridiculous and silly, it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it sounds like a 10 ridiculous, and it's really like a 5 ridiculous. Okay.
You want to feel competent, right? You want to have self-assurance and confidence that you can make your own way and do your own thing, right?
Yeah.
Why would that be important to you?
I mean, it would feel nice just to be confident myself and like not need reassurance from other people, because I'm always like worried about what other people think of what other people are thinking of me, or like if they're judging me, and yeah, I don't want to live like that.
Because that's painful, right? I mean, if you don't have self-confidence, then there's insecurity, and if you have insecurity, then you are constantly taking your own inventory. You're wondering, what somebody's thinking of you, if they're judging you, if they're putting you down, if you're not measuring up. And what happens when you're doing that is you're kind of dividing your intellect. Half of it's going to being vigilant about what people are thinking of you, and only half of it's going to the task at hand. So it's like if you got 100 IQ, 50 points are going to worry and 50 points are going to what you're doing. So now you're functioning with a 50 IQ.
Yeah.
And then you do start creating problems for yourself. And the question comes now. We are where we are. We're deep into this, 20, 25. Is it too late? You know I'm the incurable optimist. I say it is never too late. So how can we move forward? Steve's parenting has affected his daughters. His intentions are good. This is not an evil dad here. This is not somebody that's trying to do something wrong. It's certainly not a mother that's trying to do something wrong. We're going to talk about that when we come back, and we're going to talk about re-parenting. And I don't care how old our kids get, we're never done. We're never done. We just start parenting from a distance. We'll be right back. Our guest today, and a very special thank you to Dr. Nita Landry. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time. So long.